So if you're looking for brand new information on Diablo 4, we just got an hour-long Q&A session with the lead class designer, Adam Jackson, and the lead game producer, Melissa Corning. They talked about a lot of very key things when it comes to Diablo 4 systems, such as progression, player customization, cosmetics, respec costs, crafting, and so much more, ladies and gentlemen. We got a lot to dive into today, a very full episode. If you're interested in earning a free Diablo 4 game copy, don't forget to stick around until the end of the video to see how you can earn a free copy from the Comeback Kids. Without further ado, let's dive right into it. Now, one of the main topics in the community right now is the fact that respec costs are a big concern when it comes to the end game of your character. The lead class designer was asked if they were going to make any changes or continue to look at feedback for it come launch or even beyond that. Adam Jackson responds with, "We want players to commit to a fantasy and a character and have actual weight and meaning to their choices. We also want them to feel free to customize their character and explore and try different builds and ways to play. We've landed on the fact that early on in the game it's very cheap to where it's almost essentially free. Then when you get to the really late game, we do want you to kind of start to optimize and focus on a build that you can have an identity of, whether it be a werewolf druid or a blood-casting magic necromancer. As for making respec costs free, I don't think we're going to be going down that direction anytime soon. But this is a live service game, and we're continuing to listen to feedback from the community, so we're going to do what we feel is best for players." Pretty much stating that they aren't going to be making any changes as of right now, and they like the way Diablo 4 is headed. And if player feedback is kind of poor on launch, it is a live service game, they're very happy to make changes for the best when it comes to Diablo 4's health. The developers were also asked about cosmetics. Mostly when it comes to Blizzard games, they range anywhere between fitting and comically goofy. Will Diablo 4's cosmetics stick to the dark tone of the game's world, or can we expect all different kinds of cosmetics? Melissa replied that every single piece of equipment in the game right now is designed to fit within the version and the feel that is Diablo 4, the gothic horror style of the game. She also stated that they have no plans for pets right now, but we've definitely heard the feedback that people really like them in Diablo 3, so who knows? Now, personally, when it comes to cosmetics, I personally am kind of touchy on this subject, especially when it comes to a dark, gritty, Diablo 4 style game that's very gothic, that's very horror themed and adult and more mature. I wouldn't like anyone running around with like a pajama outfit on or like a crazy backpack and like doing funny emotes. For me, personally, take away from all the immersion. So I really do appreciate that they aren't going to be doing anything crazy. As of right now, it's confirmed that they're not doing anything completely out of the ordinary, and they're going to stick to the script and keep it a very serious, very toneful Diablo 4 themed game when it comes to their cosmetics being implemented. They were also asked if fans of previous Diablo classes like the Demon Hunter find analogous builds with the new system. Adam replied saying, "Whenever we make a new Diablo game, we want to balance the familiar with the new. We want people to have something that they can identify from previous games or playstyles. But we also have to create new things because we have to make our game feel new and exciting. I think you can find those aspects from the Rogue, for example, which has a lot of similarities from the Demon Hunter in Diablo 3. We don't purposefully try to hit everything one-to-one from the previous classes because it would be hard to make new ideas if all you're doing is referencing old things. If we make something too one-to-one, then that means we can't bring that class in the future if we wanted to for Diablo 4. We don't want to exclude the possibilities of what we could bring in the future by referencing things too much in classes that aren't in Diablo 4. Honestly, it was really well said by Adam here. He's pretty much stating that you could definitely find some similarities in the classes they have in there today. Definitely when it comes to the Rogue, tying in with that Demon Hunter playstyle a lot. They just don't want to make it too similar when it comes to a lot of the classes out there because they don't want to rule out the possibility of bringing in some very unique and exciting classes like the Monk or the Paladin, for example, that are very way left field and very different in terms of playstyle, because they would definitely want to introduce a character that is brand new, that is exciting, fresh out of the box, that we haven't seen yet as a DLC character to highly encourage, customers buying their product and it getting really good sales and hype for the game. Now, when it comes to every class's visual uniqueness, the interviews brought up the fact that people had negative feedback regarding the Druid's appearance. But then other people also liked the appearance. The developers emphasized that their goal is definitely for every class to feel unique, not just through skills and animations, but definitely through a diverse visual appearance as well. Adam emphasized that it's important for every class to have different silhouettes so that you can tell what you're playing or what other players are doing. If everybody's running around looking the same, it'd be hard to differentiate classes out in the open world. This is something that's important that we consider when it comes to even gear and how all these things look different in classes as well. Alright, now the next question and response is very important, but it's also a little bit long, so try to stay with me. They were once again asked about the respec cost because later on down in the game, they noticed that in the Paragon system, refunding one single node would be 40,000 gold or something close to that. They were asked if their vision is for people to create multiple characters within the same class like Diablo 2, or will it still be cheap enough that if you really want to change your build, you can go all the way back for a totally different build? Adam states that I would say we're somewhere in the middle. Everything exists on a spectrum where you've got really two extremes. A lot of the time, our answer is somewhere in the middle, and then, depending on feedback, we may move up or down that slider of where it is. You can think of Diablo 2 where it's on an extreme left side where it's like, you can't respec at all. Then the other end with Diablo 3, that style is pretty friendly and you could just experiment around and do what you want and it's really free form. But there are also downsides with that style. The attachment that you have with your character, build, and your fantasy isn't nearly as strong because you could switch everything and anything on a dime. We're trying to find a nice middle ground, and that's what we're trying to make it really easy early on, because that's the period of time where players can make mistakes, and we don't want them to be afraid to do that. Later on, it will get a little bit more painful and expensive to do so. Do we want you to make a character from the ground up every time you want to change your build? No, not really. That's a very interesting thing to say as well. He also states that we want it to be a choice, so there should be some pain behind it or some commitment to the idea that if you want to switch, you can. But you're really going to have to invest into it. It's going to be a meaningful choice to do it as far as the exact costs and values. We are a live service game though, so I'm sure that those things can change over time. We're going to find out what feels right over time through player feedback. We want it to be a meaningful, impactful choice to switch later on, but we don't want you to give up and re-roll your character if you put a wrong point somewhere. That's definitely not our vision of what we want Diablo 4 players to do. Now to quickly break this down, Adam is simply saying that there's two extremes to this whole scenario. There's an extreme where it's very difficult, like Diablo 2, and then an extreme where it's very freeform and easy, like Diablo 3. They want Diablo 4 to be a nice middle ground where it's very easy and very fluid and freeform in the beginning for you to be able to test out all your builds and get, an idea on what you enjoy playing, what your playstyle is going to be like, what builds you enjoy. Then once you get to the end game, they want it to be a lot harder because they want you to stick to a certain build and they want you to cater to that certain playstyle that you enjoy playing the most. They want it to feel very impactful and they want you to dive into your character as a whole when it comes to that playstyle and that class fantasy that you enjoy playing. They don't want you to just freeform change on a whim whenever you want. Now, the only issue I have with this personally is that what if you find a really super awesome, powerful, unique item out there? They're very, very rare, but what if you find one that has nothing to do with your build? And then what happens if you switch your whole build to cater to that unique item because you're like, oh my god, I got this new amazing item, I want to play with it, I want to see how good it feels, I want to test it out, and then you go test it out and it ends up being horrible. That's the only thing I'm kind of worried about, when it comes to the playing of a hack and slash, sort of ARPG fun loot experience that Diablo 4 is gonna bring, But now, moving on, they were also asked, how are they designing classes so that you don't have to choose the meta to be successful in gameplay? And listen, this is a very loaded question. I don't expect anyone to answer this question very easily, especially in Diablo 4. Let's hear the response. Adam responded by saying, we have a philosophy that you should be able to complete all the content in the game and hopefully be relatively equal to all other classes and specs as far as their power level. Every class should be able to complete all content and feel equal in power to each other. Like the total package each class should bring to the table should be relatively equal, and that's something that we want. All main builds that we propose to you or fantasies that we sell, everything a part of that class should be relatively equal in power as far as the total package of what they bring to the table. All these classes should be able to complete all content in the game, and they should be relatively equal as far as the whole package they bring. Now listen, it's a very hard question to answer, and Adam's been doing great this whole interview. I mean, all classes out there should be able to complete all the content, that's available to a certain extent. Obviously, that would be ridiculous if I want to play a Tornado Druid and I literally cannot complete the Paragon boss that I have to beat. Obviously, that's a problem. But he didn't really answer the statement of what's stopping people from continuing to just play the meta build and be very successful in that gameplay over other options. If you want my honest opinion, I think Diablo 4 at launch, just from a basic standpoint of how they designed the game as a whole, I think there are going to be broken builds that are really, really strong, and I think there are going to be broken builds that are really, really weak at the start of the game, and it's just something they're going to have to try to divvy out and even over time. I mean, whether they like it or not, it's just how the game is designed, in my opinion. Now, when it comes to players not picking the meta build out there, I think 90% of players are just going to simply look up on Icy Veins, oh, what's the best Paragon board, the capstone, the skills, all this aspects, and I'm just going to go hunt it down, make sure I have it. I think it's way too hard to balance. I think there's going to be meta constantly. It's just how these games work. And another question that goes hand in hand with this is the fact that they got a question saying, how closely tied is the relationship between the gear system and player builds? Will players need to acquire a specific set if they want to enjoy a particular playstyle? Or is gear more focused on enhancing builds that are achieved through skills and Paragon? Adam states that as far as how your build comes alive, that's going to depend build to build. Pretty much every build that's in Diablo 4, there's going to be certain legendary powers that you're going to chase that are going to make your build way more powerful over time. There's also going to be ways to get it through Paragon or your class mechanic and all these other systems. The whole point of it all is that you have a lot of different pockets of ways to chase that fantasy down. We give you the endpoints of what you're wanting to chase, and how you get there is up to you. Pretty much, he's just stating here that there's a wide variety of build enhancers when it comes to the Paragon board, the skill tree, legendary aspects, you know, affixes on your gear, all these different things that can give you these big power spikes as you're leveling. So it's not just items are the major game changer in the game. There's a lot of different areas that'll make your character improve, so it's not so reliant on gear. And the last question was, why have they veered away from gear sets when they've been such a key part of Diablo in the past? Does it not fit with all these other customization options you set up? At least for now in Diablo 4, we don't want to tell players how to play so much. We want them to figure it out on their own, and we felt like our previous design of sets was too prescriptive in a way. Obviously, there will be that Tornado Druid example where some legendary powers you're going to want to have as they are very synergistic. But for us to say, hey, get all these different pieces and then you'll get to play the fantasy, it isn't the way that we want to do it. We want you to piecemeal and get things over time. So that's going to wrap up all the most important information in that interview. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of brand new information coming off right hot off the press. With that developer interview, you know, explaining battle passes and seasons, as well as cosmetics and character progression and, you know, Respec. A lot of very key details that we've been dying to hear about, and a lot of the community has a lot of concerns on. If you guys want, I would highly recommend going back and you know, watching it through a couple more times. I read this article maybe 10 times to really understand what they were talking about. And there's a lot of information to actually go through. If you want the link to the actual article, I'll link it in the description below if you want to go read it. Maybe that'd be better for you. By the way, don't forget the Comeback Kids are doing a giveaway for a free Diablo 4 game copy. So if you're interested, please click the link in the description below to further see how you could win that. I want to thank you all so much for watching this video. It's an absolute pleasure to be making content for you all. Until the very end, my name's Sky from the Comeback Kids. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.